good, y'all? The NBA is back from the All-Star break, and I am back from my All-Star break. I went on like about a week of not uploading videos just because after the trade deadline and before the All-Star break, there's not much to talk about in the NBA, so I decided I'll just take a little break off videos, but now we're back in action. And since it's been a while since I uploaded a video and we're kind of hitting the turning point of the NBA season, I decided to put up a tweet that basically just went out to my followers saying, ask me any questions about the NBA you want. We're just going to be doing, bouncing around a few topics here, talking about general NBA stuff. If you guys want to be included in the next Q&A, make sure you follow my Twitter. It's right in the description below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. And let's just get right into the first question. This one comes from Joe, and he says, what player has been the biggest surprise and the biggest disappointment in your eyes, excluding injuries? I'm going to start off on the positive note and talking about the biggest surprise in my eyes, and I feel like this is an easy one. It's, of course, Norman Powell. I don't know about you guys, but when he said that quote about Paul George leaving and he's like, oh, it's addition by subtraction, I kind of was laughing at it. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's what you have to say as a player, as a guy that, is a competitor and knows what he could do. Yeah, it makes sense you have that confidence, but I didn't believe him. Boy, was he right, because if we look right now, Norman Powell's having a way better season than Paul George right now, just player for player. Shout out to Norman Powell, man. He was in the three-point contest, was close to making the All-Star game. I think there was a few other guys I would have above him, but he was at least in conversations, which, again, talking about Norman Powell, that is something I would have never guessed in a million years coming into this season. And this surprise can kind of go over the Clippers team as a whole, because I didn't expect them to be this good. A lot of that is because Norman Powell has been really good, but Zubac has been having a career year. James Harden has turned back the clock of time and really has looked incredible as like the main facilitator and playmaker in offense right now. Shout out the Clippers and Norman Powell, though. They really have been exceeding all of my expectations. And then also shout out to Ty Jerome. I was not expecting him to be impactful at all, if we're being honest, but he is one of the most impactful six men in the NBA on one of the best teams in the NBA, of course that being the Cleveland Cavaliers. Having a great season for them. I'm definitely going to say the most surprising has been Norman Powell, but Ty Jerome, he deserves a shout out. Now to switch over and talk about the disappointing player, it's Dante DiVincenzo. In case you guys don't know, I am a big Knicks fan, and I was able to see Dante have a career year last year with us, hit big shot after big shot, an absolute flamethrower coming off the bench in the starting lineup. It didn't matter. He was knocking down threes at an elite level. And then when he was included in the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, I was pretty disappointed because he made such a big impact on the Knicks. I knew that he was going to make such a big impact on the Timberwolves, and he just really didn't. I know they were using him a little bit weird, more as like a on-ball point guard type of role in the beginning of the season, and then once they moved him back to an off-ball role, he was starting to look like the Dante we knew from last season. Then he went down with an injury, and just all in all, his impact on the Timberwolves was not nearly as much as I thought it was going to be, so I was pretty disappointed in seeing that from Dante. And I know Joe said excluding injuries, but I am really disappointed in the New Orleans Pelicans as a whole. It seems like every single year, it's just injury after injury after injury. This season alone, first it was DeJounte Murray, then it was Brandon Ingram. Zion wasn't ready to start the season. Herb Jones went out with the whole year. Jose Alvarado had an injury in there. Trey Murphy had an injury in there. Like literally every single player on the Pelicans has missed time. And I need something to change, man. I want to see a healthy Pelicans team for an entire season. That's literally all I want. Next question we have is from my boy Finn here. He says, which teams do you expect to rise and fall in the standings post All-Star break? Again, we're going to start off with the positives here and talk about the team I think that will rise, and that is the Miami Heat. If you look at the strength of schedule for the rest of the season, the Miami Heat have the 6th easiest schedule remaining out of the entire league, so they should be able to rack up some wins here. Then you look at the teams around them, they're tied at the 8th and 9th seed with the Atlanta Hawks, who are kind of sellers at the trade deadline. They traded away DeAndre Hunter, they traded away Bogdan Bogdanovic. Jalen Johnson is missing the rest of the season with injury, so I expect them to fall. They're also only a half game back from the Orlando Magic, which they've been very up and down this season. Recently, they've been very down this season. And then they're 3 games behind the very young Pistons. So things are pretty tight in that group right now in the Eastern Conference. I could definitely expect the Heat to start racking up their wins. I know they're only 0-3 since the trade with Jimmy Butler, getting in Andrew Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, Kyle Anderson, all those guys. But I do think that those, once they start getting acclimated to the team, those guys can fit well. Davion Mitchell has looked really solid. I didn't expect him to start for the Miami Heat, but he's looked really good there. And I said when they made that trade, he kind of fits Heat culture as a defensive first point guard. He's been showing that so far. Andrew Wiggins, again, like I said, they're 0-3 right now. He hasn't looked the best, but I do expect him to kind of get more acclimated into that offense and really start to impact better. Then looking at teams that could fall in the standings, I gotta go with the Sacramento Kings. They have the second hardest strength of schedule remaining, which is not a good sign, especially out there in the super tough Western Conference. Since getting Zach LaVine, they're 3-3. In their last 10 games, they're 5-5. They're really starting to just look like a 500 average team. Right now, they're tied with the Warriors at the 9th and 10th seed, and of course, the Warriors just made that big trade for Jimmy Butler. I do expect them to start rising in the stands. They're only a game and a half above the Phoenix Suns right now, which when you have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, I never can fully count you out. And then they have a little bit more space between them and the Spurs. The Spurs are 3.5 games back from them. But again, they made a big trade to bring in a lot of talent like De'Aaron Fox, so they could get some more wins there too. I could just see the Sacramento Kings free falling right now. Their defense has looked pretty bad all season, if we're being honest, but especially now that they went just kind of full into defense, having a lineup most nights of like a Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk. Like, there's not a lot of defense going on there. Shout out Keon Ellis. He's doing as best as he can, but I don't think that the Sacramento Kings are going to be able to outscore teams as much every night. So I definitely think that they're going to start racking up some L's and maybe falling in that standings. Next question we got is from my boy Eli, and he's asking who is the biggest final sleeper / teams that I think can make a playoff run this season. Out east, when I look at it, honestly, I don't think anyone other than the top 5 seeds can win a playoff series. I just really don't see anyone upsetting the Cleveland Cavaliers, Boston Celtics, Knicks, and then that 4 or 5 seed right now between the Pacers and the Bucks. I do think that's a pretty much a toss-up right now. I could see either one of those teams winning. But those 5 teams, I wouldn't say they would be an upset if they make a deep playoff run. I would say the biggest surprise out of those would be the Pacers, but then again, last year they just made it to the Western Conference Finals, so I'm gonna not really look out east. But when I look out west, there is kind of one team that glares out to me, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers. I talked about it a little bit when talking about Norman Powell, but I was not expecting this type of season from the Clippers. Their defense is elite. You know, that's one of the biggest things you need when you're a contending team, defense, and they definitely got it. Shout out to Derrick Jones Jr. Also, scoring-wise, I am very confident in a healthy Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. That's the #1 key. Will he be healthy? Hopefully. Then alongside Kawhi, you have James Harden, who has looked great as a playmaker and ISO scorer. Norman Powell shooting the ball has been great. Zubac looking great as a center, having a career year. And then also they added Ben Simmons as a playmaker off their bench. Again, if Kawhi stays healthy, I could see them being a dark horse team. I'm not saying that they're likely to do it, but I could see a situation where it happens. Next question is from Danny here, and he says he would love to see my all-rookie team so far. I will be coming up with a post-All-Star awards video coming soon. I don't think I'll include all-rookie or all-NBA teams just yet. I usually leave that till the end of the season. But I'll give y'all a quick sneak peek here. There's no order in the teams. It's just broken up between all-rookie first team, all-rookie second team. Starting off with all-rookie first team, I have Stephon Castle, Jalen Wells, Alex Sarr, Zachary Richache, and Yves Messi. Then for the second team, I have Zach Edey, Isaiah Collier, Bub Carrington, Khalil Ware, and Dalton Connect. Quick honorable mentions, I do have Jared McCain. If he wasn't injured, he could have damn near been Rookie of the Year. Definitely would have made an all-rookie team, but of course, didn't play enough games, so shout out to him. Tristan Da Silva was also really close to making this list. And then finally, the last honorable mention is Keyshawn George. Shout out to him. And this question kind of loosely fits in with this next one, so we're gonna do them together a little bit. This next question comes from Eamon Castles, and he says, who's one player that I could see having a breakout post-All-Star break? Before I answer that question, I do want to say I was just on Eamon's podcast, the CASSELSCAST. It was a great conversation. It's in the description below. Make sure you guys check that out. But the reason I say Eamon and Danny's questions are combined here is because my answer to Eamon's question are the young guys on the Wizards. Shout out to Wizards Muse. They put up this nice graphic here, these stats saying since the Kuzma trade, Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, Jordan Poole, I even think Tristan Vucevic was on this graphic as well. All the young guys on the Wizards have been looking amazing ever since Kuzma has been traded. And I know earlier in the season there was, a stat saying that when Kuzma didn't play, the young guys had better stats and looked better on the court. I know Kuzma had that quote the other day where before he got traded, he says, yeah, I'm just not trying to fit in here anymore. I just want to play my game, score buckets. You know, it's not my job to help raise these guys and help them grow as players. Very questionable quote by Kuzma, won't lie. But now that he's off the team, these guys are going to get more opportunities, and I'm a really big fan of the Wizards' young core here. They had an incredible draft this year with their 3 rookies. Shout out Jordan Poole having a great bounce-back season as well. I don't think it'll lead to much wins, but I do expect to see a lot of elevated play from the Wizards' young core here. And last but not least, this question comes from Chris, and he asks, who's looked the best on their new team since the trade deadline? Mavs fans, brace yourselves here. I would have Anthony Davis on this if he did not get injured. That first, I don't know, 2.5 quarters of Anthony Davis on the Mavericks looked incredible. He looked amazing, dominant, offensively, defensively, grabbing boards, lobbing stuff up to Daniel Gafford, catching lobs from Kyrie Irving. Absolutely dominant. Get well soon, AD, please. But to ease the pain, Max Christie has looked like a hooper on the Dallas Mavericks. He's averaging 17 points per game, 5 rebounds, 3 assists while shooting 49% from the field and 46% from 3 while shooting like 5 attempts per game. Has just looked like a whole new player. He's looked aggressive offensively, looking for his shot, getting to the rim. Has looked amazing, and it's definitely a small band-aid to help heal the hearts of Dallas Mavericks fans after this trade. Shout out to Max Christie, really making the most of his situation. And then I could go with guys like Jimmy Butler, who has looked pretty good with the Warriors. He and Draymond Green seem to get a little bit chemistry going. I could say De'Aaron Fox, who had a few really good games with the Spurs and has looked like the shot creator they need down the stretch of games to really close stuff out for them. But I'd want to go with another underrated guy, and that's Caris LeVert. He's only played 3 games with the Atlanta Hawks, but has been absolutely cooking for them. He's averaging 16 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, while shooting 53% from the field and 40% from 3. Just an absolute killer off the bench for them, just getting buckets. He had a really big game against my New York Knicks right before the All-Star break went down. Shout out to him. You know, it sucks he's going from the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the best teams in the NBA, to now the Atlanta Hawks, who are probably going to be a play-in team, if that. It definitely sucks for him, but again, he's making the most out of his situation and still hooping regardless. That's all the questions I have for today's video. Like I said, if you guys want a chance to be included in the next Q&A, make sure you follow my Twitter. It's right down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social media, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch y'all.